Thanks, Ringline.
We are good.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody. I'm Eilers-Heffner, Emerald Ambassador with Plexus, and I'm here with my friend, Lauren Smithson.
Hi, guys. I'm an Emerald Ambassador as well. We are both physical therapists, so we have some background in nutrition just from schooling, and then both of us have done quite a bit of just independent research for ourselves and as we've taken Plexus and just tried to work on nutrition in general in our lives and for our families as well. I know both of us also work with a functional med doc too that has given us lots of advice based on like our specific blood work. And that's been one of the big resources that I have, and I'll be sharing a lot of the things that I've learned from her today.
Yes. So my health journey in terms of food started actually about 9 years ago. And so I've always been healthy. You know, I've always thought I need to eat lots of vegetables. That's how we were raised. And lots of, limited desserts and things like that. That was always a thing. And then actually early on in college, I was like, gosh, it just doesn't seem right to be eating like a bowl of cereal for lunch and a bowl of cereal for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, and then like heavy pasta for dinner. That just seems really heavy in this one area. And that was just me. That was just my own thought processes. And so I started just kind of going, well, I should really like eat more vegetables and just kind of limit those heavy carby, grainy things to, once or twice a day, eating more salads, things like that. And I was a runner. I was a runner in high school. I ran through college. I did some, fun races and things like that. So I was always active and I certainly ate. Like I was never afraid to eat, right? And then I learned of this whole paleo diet. So around that same time that I had heard of paleo, I was actually having some pain, like pain in my feet, and sometimes my hands would hurt. And I was like, wow, like I shouldn't be feeling like this. I'm too young. What's going on? And, I'm a physical therapist. I'm like, gosh, I don't even want to think about what diagnosis this could be, right? And so I learned of paleo, and it was really great for inflammation. So I'm like, okay, well, let me read more about this. And so what I really, really loved was this focus on whole, nutritious foods. So paleo does eliminate some groups. However, the reason behind that is to really focus on very nutritionally dense food. So we're going to share what that really kind of looks like. And I've incorporated that through the years now with my children. I've been really, really careful about what it is that they ate as babies, what their first foods were. Rice cereal, my first child, she did get some rice cereal as a baby because that's what you did. But my second, third, and fourth kids got sweet potatoes and avocados and maybe a little banana and much more nutritionally dense foods as their first baby foods that I made. I did buy a tiny bit. I'm not like crazy psycho, have to make every single thing, but I did try to make a lot of their baby food. So as well as continuing on, always I've tried to cook our meals. My roommate in college, my good friend, she would be like, you cook and I'll do the dishes. I'm like, okay, perfect. I've always liked to cook. So anyway, some people look into paleo because they want to lose weight or maintain a healthy weight, or they want even just help planning meals. There's lots of paleo menus out there and things like that. So there's lots because farming changed how people were eating. When we came in with mass agriculture, there was a way to mass produce a lot of these grains and cereals and breads. And so people started eating that because that's what we were told, that's what we needed to eat. And there's lots and lots and lots of research out there how different health conditions have changed with that introduction of the agricultural age. I've listened to several podcasts and different webinars. This was years ago I had started listening to this. This isn't just a Plexus thing. And so just really educated myself in that. And as I followed more carefully what I was putting into my body, I did notice results. And it really, really is a trifecta of proper nutrition, proper supplementation, and moving our bodies. So yeah, that is a very long intro and a little bit of more of my background that maybe you haven't heard before. So Lauren, what do you have to add to that?
Well, I don't know if you want my background as well, but I definitely did not grow up eating a lot of vegetables and taking care of myself the way that I do now, unfortunately. It was just, I don't know if it was a different time or what, but I definitely had a lot more processed foods in my diet when I was growing up. And now, just over the years, I've learned a lot in school and just in life and how I felt. And I have always been a little bit chubbier, and I just didn't like how I felt in my own skin. And so I always was trying to figure out ways to make myself just feel better and feel more comfortable in my own skin. And so just over the years, I've tried different things, and I really have come to like eating just more, like Elizabeth said, nutrient dense foods. I just feel better that way. That doesn't mean that I don't crave some of the processed stuff. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect. It means that I really try to have a kind of a 90-10 balance, right? Like 90% of the time, I make really good choices for my body. And then the other 10% of the time, it's okay if I see a piece of chocolate and want to indulge in that, but I shouldn't be doing that all the time. So it's really nice to have that balance so that we're not creating disordered habits or anything like that, but just knowing that most of the time I'm making really good choices, and sometimes I indulge and enjoy myself in other ways. So that's kind of my background, but I really have found that I just feel better when I eat this way. And you can call it paleo. I know Elizabeth's going to have some information on intermittent fasting, and there's lots of information on counting your macros and all of this stuff. But really, I think what it boils down to is, like she said, just eating really whole, nutrient dense foods, eliminating some of the processed stuff that you're possibly consuming, because it's in everything, eliminating artificial sweeteners, and I'll talk a little bit about that tonight, and then drinking lots and lots of water, and there's lots of benefits to drinking a lot of water. So we're going to kind of go through all the different food groups tonight at some point, because I think for some people you hear carb and you think one thing, and you hear fat and you think of one thing, and it's really a little more complex than that. So we're going to dive into what those different food groups are, and then talk about how much of each thing you should be eating.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that explanation. I love that we come from different backgrounds, but have ended up in kind of the same place, right? That's incredible.
That's really for everybody.
Yeah. So the thing that we talk about, let's talk about like the food groups, right? So there are healthy fats, and then there's not healthy fats. I'll start with that. So fat is not bad for you, and there are still several published diets that will say low in fat, like low fat yogurts or low fat cheeses or something, or low fat milk. And actually the dairy consumption is kind of one of those things that maybe some people shouldn't really be tolerating dairy, or shouldn't be eating a lot of dairy. They say that, you hear often, especially more that paleo world, that milk and dairy is for baby cows, not for humans. Human milk is for baby humans, and cow's milk is made for baby cows. So I have gone dairy free in the past. I have right now, I am incorporating some dairy in my routine because I am tolerating it fine. Like, I'm very acutely aware of my inflammatory levels and how I feel, and I'm doing great with it. And it's a great way to get some fat in my diet. The things that we want to avoid in terms of unhealthy fats are things like vegetable oil and soybean oil, hydrogenated oils, margarine, any processed butter, like man-made butter. Your butter should literally say butter, like dairy, milk. So that's one thing that you can kind of look at. We want to be really cooking with butter and avocado oil. Avocado oil. Avocado oil, read about, because I think there's that heat point where you don't want to heat it too much because it can change the properties. Olive oil is good. So we want to be using those, and we really want to avoid the yucky oils, what I say yucky oils. So the soys and the vegetables and the Criscos and things like that, because they really can wreak havoc on our system. I'm not going to go into tons of detail about that. You can certainly Google this. And keeping in mind like restaurants. So if you go to a restaurant and a lot of restaurant salad dressings, a lot of on the shelf salad dressings are full of vegetable oil or soybean oil. And that's really not a great place to start at all. But there are coming out with more and more and more salad dressings made with olive oil, or you can make your own. I'll do a salad with just balsamic vinegar and some olive oil and salt and pepper on there. It's really delicious. I've cut up some olives on there. I just really can enjoy that. And then there are some salad dressings that are made with, that you can find on the market. They might say primal, which is like a paleo term, and they might just say olive oil, organic olive oil. And then also the sugars that they put into salad dressings can be an added sugar that we really, really don't need. So kind of watching that. And then restaurants, if you say, well, I don't really want this commercial salad dressing that you have, can I have a little bit of olive oil and vinegar? It's really difficult in most typical restaurants to have them actually bring you olive oil. They aren't cooking their food in olive oil. They're cooking it in these other oils that I've mentioned. They're certainly deep frying, their fries and things like that in those oils that are really not good for us. So really watch that. That's one really actually pretty easy switch that we can make in our homes. And maybe you take a little container of salad dressing out with you, salad dressing is what you're cooking with. And then also our healthy fats. So avocados and nuts and eggs. And like I mentioned, some full fat cheese, plain full fat yogurt, stuff like that. That's what we really want to be having in our body, is more natural occurring fat products. And it's not a bad thing, right? So keeping that in mind, that's one thing that you can also look up more too, of healthy fats, and you'll find a plenty of examples of that for sure. So Lauren, did you want to cover another group?
Well, I just want to say, I think there's kind of a fad right now. Well, and there tends to be fads up and down of eliminating full food groups altogether. And I don't necessarily think that that's a good thing. So there's a lot of people that try to completely take out the fats in their diet. And this is actually not good for you. Definitely take out the ones that Elizabeth is talking about, the bad ones, the ones that do not do our bodies any good. But the good ones, they are really good for, I wrote a list here, they help us absorb our vitamins a lot better. So that is really important. They help us with energy actually, and they also help protect our heart and our brain. Like she said, you could easily Google all the benefits of good fats, but there's a lot of benefits of good fats. So I would just urge you that if you're looking into eliminating something completely, to really look into that first and see what that would do, because really our bodies need all of these, they're called macronutrients. So we need our carbs, we need our protein, we need our vegetables, we need our fats in order for our bodies to get everything it needs to function every single day. So another one that's a common misconception is eliminating carbs altogether. And I definitely don't think this is a good idea. Kind of the same concept as fats. There are good carbs and not so good carbs, right? Not all carbs are created equal. So some of the examples of the bad carbs would be like processed or the enriched white breads that you see, any kind of pastries or cookies, desserts, table sugar, things like that. Those things are the carbs that we really want to limit our intake of. And then the things that are good carbs is actually a lot of carbs in vegetables. There's a lot of carbs in fruits. And then some of the ones that I really like to consume as like a starch for a meal would be like sweet potatoes, even white potatoes. As long as you're watching your portions on these things, it's really okay to have white potatoes, sweet potatoes. I eat rice quite often too, because that's, as long as it's not any like processed rice that you could, the weird stuff that you could see in the aisles, but like really good rice. As long as you're kind of measuring or keeping an eye on what your portions look like, then it's really not a bad thing to have carbs, and we need those for our energy. That's what our bodies use to convert to glucose to give us energy. the really nice thing about eating more of the vegetables, fruits, and those like more complex carbs like the sweet potatoes and the whole grain type of stuff is that those take a longer amount of time to turn into glucose for our body. So you get more bang for your buck, you get more nutrients out of your calories rather than having something like a cookie or some kind of table sugar or something like that that's going to convert right away to glucose. You're not really going to be able to use it for much energy, and that's why you get so tired afterwards, because it converts right away. It doesn't really use it for anything productive, and then you're just tired afterwards. For instance, if I have a piece of chocolate or something like that and just want to indulge, right afterwards, I actually feel kind of tired and it does not make me feel good. So I would rather just drink some water or make some tea or something like that if I have some kind of craving. Or for us in Plexus, a really great alternative would be to have like the Hunger Control Slim, which would help give us that sweet taste, but would help us curb that craving for that sweet, unhealthy sweet. Something about artificial sweeteners though, while we're kind of on the sweet topic, I actually looked into this quite a bit today and I've been looking at this a lot lately, but sometimes those artificial sweeteners can be in the different foods that we eat, and they're really, really not good for you. If you have any kind of Splenda that you put in your coffee every day, or if you're drinking diet sodas that have a lot of aspartame or other types of artificial sweeteners, right away, just one packet of the Splenda that you put into coffee or whatever it is will completely kill 50% of the good bacteria that's in your gut. So it's just something else to watch out for to really limit those kind of things as well. That's something that you can just completely cut out is those artificial sweeteners, because that's going to do a lot worse for your gut and for just your glucose tolerance, or what is it? Glucose. I wrote this down. The artificial sweeteners are worse than sugar for increasing your weight gain. They worsen your insulin sensitivity. That's what I was thinking of. And that's all worse than just regular table sugar. So it's better, even though regular table sugar is not something we want, the artificial sweeteners are actually worse for us for those things than the table sugar are themselves. So if you're looking for something to sweeten something up, something that people think is really a healthier alternative, which it is healthier, would be like agave or honey, but you have to watch out for those too because they can be a little bit more processed as well. So just making sure that you're knowing where it's sourced from or not really having a ton of that. One of the really good types of sweeteners is if you get stevia from the actual plant itself. There are a list of 2 other ones along with that, but I thought that was really important to note that the stevia from the plant is actually one of the best ones you can do, and that is what we sweeten our pink. That's really great to make that link that Plexus really cares about the ingredients that goes into our products, and we're not just putting some kind of bad sugar in there. We're getting from an actual plant, the stevia from the plant to sweeten. So I thought that was a great point to make.
I love that. And I've heard too, so when we have an artificial sweetener, it's telling our brain that we ate something sweet, which then is causing an insulin response. So when we eat something sweet, we get an insulin response, triggers our brain. Our brain is telling our pancreas to do its job. But then because we didn't actually eat real sugar, we're ending up craving more and more and more and more and more sugar. So you have this awful cycle just over and over and over again. And
yeah. It makes us hungrier. I read tonight that it makes us hungrier to have artificial.
Mm-hmm. And I've talked to lots of nurses, friends, and also a few like neurologists, and either like the friend has said, well, Dr. So-and-so, who is a neurologist, has told me, or I've talked to the neurologist themselves. I've heard this from several people. The neurologists say that I've talked to, like, and that I've just indicated that you do not want to do the artificial sweeteners because they're actually neurotoxic too. So that is not good. A lot of people with migraines, a lot of people with chronic headaches, when they quit drinking a diet soda, their headaches go away. And I know when I was studying for my board exam for PT licensure, I was like, well, I wanted to be alert and awake. And so I would wanted some caffeine. And so I started drinking Diet Coke. I don't even drink Diet Coke. I hardly ever drink soda to this day. I didn't grow up drinking a ton. I like rare before Plexus. And now it's just like unheard of almost, right? For me to drink a soda. But I was like, well, I'll drink a Diet Coke and I'll study. I started getting headaches. Like I literally started getting headaches and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so not good. Quit drinking it, headaches went away. So thankfully that was short-lived for me. And I was very careful. I've had different family members want to give my children like those like what is it? Crystal Light. Like, oh, it's just Crystal Light. It's not going to hurt them. I'm like, yes, it is. Like, because I didn't want them drinking Kool-Aid either. I'm like, they don't need a cup of sugar to drink. We drink water. That was way pre-Plexus. Just my kids can drink water. That's what's going to nourish their body. They weren't big juice drinkers or anything like that, but I didn't want them drinking Kool-Aid. So the alternative was Crystal Light. I'm like, no, that's going to kill their little brain cells that we're trying to develop over here. And then along the same lines, the healthy fats are good for our brain. So pregnant, nursing mothers, we really want to make sure we're getting those extra good fish oils, healthy fats. Our Omega X is a great plant source of omegas. And another good source of a fatty food would be some good fish, sourced from a good place so that it's not contaminated with all the bad stuff. So never eat the farm raised is what I've heard, because it actually has more stuff in it, more, contaminations. You guys, oh my goodness. So those are some tips there to kind of keep in mind with that. I really appreciate all your info, Lauren, for sure. And the other thing to keep in mind, so there is no bad food. Food is not bad, right? Part of this learning process with changing our habits, changing our diet maybe, and our diet is just what we eat. I don't go on a diet. What I eat is my diet, right? So, your puppy has a diet. Your puppy's diet is puppy food. Your dog's diet is dog food. Your elderly dog's diet is elderly dog food. So diet is just what we eat. I don't ever say I'm going on a diet. I'm not a big counter of calories and all of that, but I do listen to my body, becoming more self-aware. So why is it that I want the bag of chips? Is it because I'm stressed? Is it because there's an emotional trigger? Is it, where is that coming from? And so thinking of food as part of, is this nourishing our body? Is it going to nourish my body? Is it not? But there is no inherently good or bad food. Food is food. It's all food. And why are we craving it? Is this an emotional response? Is this a nostalgic response? Is this a habitual response? Well, every time I go to the movie, I get a big bag of popcorn and a soda and a box of candy. Is this just a habit? What else could I do to enjoy the movie? Do I need that to enjoy a movie? Well, for me, no, I don't personally. But that doesn't mean that for someone else that isn't very meaningful for part of their movie experience. And that is okay. That's okay. There is, now, do you want to eat that every single day? In my researched opinion for, let's say 10 years, I would say no. However, if that's something that you really enjoy and find meaningful, then that is okay. It's okay too. This is all about your goal and what you find meaningful. And so just keep that in mind. There is no good and bad food. And the whole I already ate a donut for breakfast, and so I might as well have another one after lunch. And why not have ice cream and cookies after dinner too? Because I've already screwed up. That is another thought process of habitual, I screwed up, the day's done, I'm just going to keep screwing up because I've decided to, basically. And if you eat a donut for breakfast, you better enjoy it, right? Number one, just enjoy it, own it, eat the donut if that's what you really, really, really want. It's okay. But then maybe at lunch, get a salad and make sure there's some good chicken on it and some olive oil, like balance yourself out. And so I saw this somewhere, and she said, it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, basically, is like with your diet specifically is what I'm referring to. And I'm sure we can apply this to other areas, but if I drop my phone and then I stomp on it. So because I dropped my phone, which was an accident, and I'm going to stomp on it because I dropped it, like nobody's going to do that, right? Like, why would you do that? So, eat the donut and then get yourself back on track. It was one meaningful opportunity that you had to eat a donut. And if that was important to you, make that important, but don't stomp on your phone the rest of the day. Nobody's going to stomp on their smartphone, you guys. We pay too much money for them. So just definitely keep that in mind.
I love that.
Yeah. And like a tip, like that's just my son. It's okay. So a tip that I have too is that, and I've learned, and you touched on this. So when you eat a piece of chocolate, you don't necessarily feel super awesome. Like, oh, I feel a little sluggish, a little tired. So, they used to say, well, if you really want that chocolate, eat it after breakfast, because then you kind of get it out of your system and you have all day to burn those calories. Well, or you're kind of setting yourself to want more and more chocolate all day is one thing that can occur. You need to kind of see where your body is at. But if you feel like that, then if I'm going to enjoy a piece of chocolate, then I'm going to do it when my children are in bed and not getting up any more times and not coming to me and asking me for anything. And the TV's off and everything's calm. And that's when I'm actually going to enjoy the chocolate. I'm not going to enjoy the chocolate with chaos happening all around me, right? Let's just be honest with ourselves. And so having it at bedtime, like, I'm saying a piece of chocolate, not a candy bar, where you then feel kind of, like sleep through it. It's okay to kind of like go to bed and you're going to wake up and that whole exchange is going to happen while you're sleeping and you're going to wake up and feel good. So just kind of keeping our timing of these things that we do find meaningful to indulge in is good. And then finding freedom in knowing that we can have a Christmas cookie anytime we want. You can make Christmas cookies in June. There's no reason why you can't. Your grandmother's chocolate dip cherry blah 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 cookie, that isn't something that can only be made in December. It can be made any time of the year. And I think when we are conscious of that, it gives us that freedom to go, well, you know what, I don't really want this right now, but I know we only get it once a year. Well, no, make them in June when you really, really, really want it. And that's okay too. So kind of keeping that in mind, that we need to know that food is available. We are in a very blessed nation and food is available to us so easily. There's grocery pickups, there's deliveries, there's Costco, there's Sam's. Like, we have all these options of getting food into our house and into our bellies. And so we need to be thankful for that. And we need to just remember that we're a very blessed nation in this manner. So
I have one more thing I want to add, and I know we're already at over half an hour, so I don't want to take up a bunch more of your time, but I just have something that I think is beneficial. It's helped me a ton, which is visualizing how much of each thing I need to eat each day. So my functional med doctor actually gave me a recommendation for these containers. So see how there's 3 portioned out areas here? The only thing I don't love about this is it's plastic, so I actually just bought a microwavable one that is not made of plastic that I could use for work that I'm now using. But this was a really great place to start. So I can link these. I don't know if I have the link to these, but I can link these in the comments so you can kind of at least get a feel of how much of everything you should be eating. So this is kind of how I map out each of my meals. So not as much breakfast because I have lean for breakfast, but I do a whole handful of spinach in my lean each day, which is this large portion. So the largest portion of this container should be your vegetables. It should be half of your meal every single time that you eat. One of the other ones is protein, and then the other one is carbs. So these all are specific amounts. So I believe these are 2/3 of a cup each. So protein, carbs, 2/3 each. And then this is a cup and a half of vegetables. And that's what I have for each of my meals. And it's really helped me visualize. If you don't have this container, if you just look at your plate, say you have a circle plate, half of it should be vegetables. And then of the other half, divide that in half. And half of it would be your good carb, like your sweet potato, your rice, your whatever else it is there, your fruit on that side. And then the other half would be your protein. What I like to do for protein is imagine the palm of your hand. The piece of meat that you eat is not the main player in your meal. So the meat should be about the width and diameter of your palm and no larger than that each time you eat a meal. So keep that in mind as you're making your meals. And again, I can link this in there so that you can kind of get these for yourself if you would like to. But that is what I do for every single thing. And I cook a lot with olive oil, so I figure if I cook my meat with olive oil, that kind of counts as my fat. If I don't have fat in a meal, I'll add part of an avocado or something like that into my meal as well. Per my functional med doctor, she says if you're under 165 pounds, 3 of these a day is enough for your body to perform at its optimal level. So if you're wondering, well, how much of that do I eat? Some people count macros and they like weigh their food, and I've actually toyed around with the idea of maybe doing that because I think that it's more specific for your body. But this is a really great place to start. So if you're under 165 pounds, 3 of these. If you're over 165 pounds, your body might need 4 of them until you start losing the weight, and then you can go back down to 3. So, or if you're a male that shouldn't weigh less than 165 pounds, and you might need 4 of those. That's okay. Or if you're a female that has a frame that needs that. Anyway, I'm just saying, like, everybody's body is different and needs different amounts of things, but this is a really great way to portion each of them. So just wanted to add that. Again, I will link that into the comments so you guys have access to it as well. Just to review, 2/3 cup of each and then a cup and a half. So if you just want to measure out your food before you're packing your lunches for tomorrow or whatever, that's what these portion sizes are.
I love that. I love the visual. It's so good. So good. I do that. I've kind of learned to do that without really having somebody tell me to, I guess. It's just kind of, I'm very similar, very similar. So
the main point, is just that your vegetables should be the main part of your meal. And then for me, what I do, if I'm eating fruit in my day, I count that as my carb rather than, adding in also sweet potato or something else. That would count as my carb for that meal, just so that I'm not taking in too much of that.
Right. Yeah. And then I just have one more thing to add. I'll try to be quick, is just keep in mind, this kind of goes along like an intermittent fasting type rule. But like, it's okay to not eat at social eating times. It's okay to eat when our body is telling us to be hungry. So what I noticed is that when the days that I'm not working, where I'm home and I get the kids on the bus and I do this and I start the laundry and I'm running around and then I take a shower and and then I'm like, oh, it's 11. I'm actually really hungry. I think I'm going to eat. And then I can eat a lot of vegetables and my proteins and my fats and my, a little bit of carbs and whatever. And then I get that meal in. I feel really good that day, right? Where a lot of times I think we think, okay, I'm up and I've been up for a half an hour, so now I need to eat. And if your body is telling you to do that, then absolutely. But we don't necessarily have to eat at a time that is this traditional like morning, noon, evening. You can if your body's telling you that, but just feel that freedom to know, like, it's okay to go out to dinner and say, well, I'm really not hungry right now, girls, but I'm going to have some water with you and I'm going to enjoy the company. And finding that freedom too is great. I mean, I have times at work where I'll do my lean, I'll kind of tuck it away and hide it as I'm running around, and then I'll mix it up real quick and drink it maybe at like 10:30. Well, then at noon, I'm really not hungry for lunch. And so I'll do my typing and I'll visit and and then more at like 1:15, then I'm hungry. And so then I'm eating after everyone else has eaten, but that's what my body is telling me to do, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. It's okay to feel a little bit hungry. I am not saying we're starving ourselves. That is no sort of information I would ever tell anyone. We're eating to our hunger cues, but because we're hungry, it doesn't necessarily mean, well, I have to run and eat right now. It means, okay, wow, my body is burning fat. My body is working and I'm going to enjoy that. And then you're going to eat when you can. There isn't this, I better go shove some crackers in my mouth because I'm hungry, but I don't have time to make a full meal. And so just kind of keeping that in mind too, that this is your body and you get to find freedom in how you're going to eat for what's best for you.
Great point. And then one last thing, and I know that we keep saying that, but water is also a really important part of your day as well. And it's really important to get half your body weight in ounces per day. I use this humongous jug. I'm a little behind on water, so I'm gonna be up a little, but it's really good to drink half your body weight in ounces per day because for a lot of reasons. One, I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist, so it's really good for your bladder health. So I'm just going to give that kind of shout out here. But then also glucose can't leave your body without being attached to a water molecule. So if you have excess sugar or excess anything in your body, if you're not peeing it out, it's not going to go anywhere. So it's just going to store as fat. So that's one of the main reasons. And it's just good to keep your skin hydrated, your organs hydrated and functioning properly. And really, that's one of the most important things we can tell you is drink your water. That's something I've been really focusing on lately, and it actually makes me feel fuller for longer too. I was telling my husband tonight at dinner, I was eating, we made the soup and it was awesome, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want more of that. But instead of having a second bowl or more food, I drank a bunch of water and I felt more full and just better afterwards than if I would have had a second helping of something. So that's another way to keep yourself a little fuller longer too, and just to make sure you're getting all the you can also add lemon to that to help you detoxify if you'd like to. And yeah, I think water is super important. And bonus, if it's cold, your body's going to try to heat it up and it's going to use energy to do that, which will rev up your metabolism a little bit as well. So lots of benefits to drinking water.
Awesome. Very good. I love it. I love all these tips. So
yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Good luck. Bye.
You guys have a good night.